Welcome to the Pain Free Training Show. Today, we're discussing how trainers can build wildly successful careers in the health and fitness industry by focusing on specializing in pain free. I'm Jeff. I'm your host and co founder of Exercise Therapy Association. I'm here with Brendan, our head coach.
Go team.
Brendan, personal trainers often wonder what skills they need to be successful in their careers. And today we're going to discuss why specializing in helping people with aches and pains might be the best path to success for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very important conversation to have as we all move forward.
I want to start by discussing your journey because the perspective you're sharing today, it's not coming from theory. It's actually coming from your own experience, right? So you've been in the fitness industry for over 20 years. You started as a personal trainer on the front lines, and you ended up later in your career specializing in pain-free, and that's what unleashed or unlocked your success. So can you tell us all a little bit about your journey so people can relate to it?
Yeah, back in 2003, I became a personal trainer. I was really excited to enter this profession. I had high hopes and dreams for it. I was passionate about fitness. I had done a number of top certifications, and I was going to the library and taking out books and everything. And then came reality. I started working with clients one-on-one, and I would spend all this time and effort planning the best programs, periodization, but then clients couldn't do this movement or that movement because of aches or pains. And then I would refer them out to therapists, and the aches and pains weren't getting any better. And in fact, they were oftentimes not able to make it to the gym as much because they were in these ongoing therapy sessions. And to me, it just seemed like we weren't set up with the tools to succeed as personal trainers with all these broken clients and therapy that just seemed like endless, never-ending appointments with the promise and hope that things were getting better. And for myself, I just felt that out of necessity, I needed to figure out a way to help clients. And in the end, it was best to empower the clients to create their own healing breakthroughs through the tools that we now use in exercise therapy. And eventually it progressed to me being in a position where I educate and guide health professionals on how to shift clients from powerless or dependent solutions for pain to self-directed healing.
I can relate. So you do your degree or you do your certification, and then they put you out on the gym floor and you just gotta kind of figure things out from there, right?
I was shocked that this is where we're at as a society. It just felt like it's what an unenlightened age in health and fitness. When you look at the assessments and solutions we have out there and how much enabling there is for people to just be in aches and pains and powerless solutions, powerless assessments, it was a real wake-up call for me once I actually got started in the career.
So, like many, you probably started out in your career like training all kinds of people, right? Like there was probably people coming to you for a variety of different things. And it was later that you started to specialize in helping people with aches and pain. Can you speak a little bit about like sort of your experience when you first started, like the clients that you were working with? And, how did it transform you when you went to this different skill set? Like, how did your life transform? How did your career change when you went from dealing with things like fat loss or building muscle to saying, no, I'm going to specialize in this particular area?
Well, I would sum it up by saying that the truth revealed itself in time. And the truth is this: I was working with pro and Olympic athletes, I was working with fitness competitors, and I was working with everyday folks. And in all of those different domains of training, the most limiting factor was aches and pains. There are lots of effective solutions out there for getting people strong. There's lots of effective solutions for getting people muscular and helping them to lose weight. But there's not a lot of places people can go to effectively resolve aches and pains. And so what happens is you just get the fallout. You get people that have worked with other trainers, people that have been to never-ending therapy appointments, and people are really looking for a way to stay pain-free so they can be consistent in working towards those goals, whatever those goals are. I found that I got more referrals from pro and Olympic athletes strictly for the fact that I could get people out of aches and pains. It had nothing to do with how fast or how strong I could get people. All of that stuff happened as a result of keeping people pain free. Pain free just ended up being the foundation for any other type of goal and priority you have with training clients. And I wasn't taught that in university. I wasn't taught that in any of the certifications I had taken. Life itself taught me that. Experience in the front lines was my greatest teacher on this journey. And that was the greatest message I got from the beginning.
How did that impact your financial situation, your ability to build a roster? Because I remember starting as a trainer in 2003 and I was getting paid like 17 bucks an hour, right? To train people, which was not, you can't make a living off that. And not only that, but often people struggle with building a roster. So when you went through this journey on when you started your career out over 20 years ago, how did it affect your ability to like build a roster? How did it affect your ability to earn a better income or a living for yourself?
Well, I mean, I can relate that one of the biggest struggles in being a young health and fitness professional is this sense of instability or insecurity, at least financially, and with job stability, because you only get paid when you're working with people. At any minute, you can have clients drop off, start canceling sessions, go on vacation, anything. You're really at the mercy of this thing. You got to move forward with faith. And what I found was nothing gave me career stability like getting people out of aches and pains. Why? Because those are the most motivated potential clients. Why? Because nothing really works in a lasting way that effectively with many of the solutions out there. They're still looking for something that'll work. Look, if somebody can't lose weight working with a trainer, they can always take a drug, they could do liposuction, they can find something that will eventually work. Not the case with aches and pains. They are still on that journey until they can find someone like us that can work with them holistically and get to the root cause. So, what happens is this: when you get somebody results with aches and pains, they become a walking business card for you. And nobody can give you that kind of marketing. Like, you can't do it with just Instagram reels and carousels and whatever kind of posts you're putting out there. We'll never be able to get you the return on investment that you get from just doing an exceptional job with your clients, just producing results. Those are the people that will talk about you. Why? Because they talked about their aches and pains everywhere they went. Parties, get togethers with friends and family, everything else. Well, now you're giving them something else to talk about. Well, I worked with this Brendan guy. He found out the whole problem in my shoulder was coming from my neck. And then he did a couple things and I got pain free. Or he found out my back pain was coming from a misalignment in my pelvis. So people will rave about you for life once you get them results with aches and pains. And I realize this. I realize when you're succeeding in this area, there is no shortage of new clients. Look, when I was working with bodybuilders, you could eat. I could never fill my roster with bodybuilders. There just wasn't enough of them out there. And with pro athletes, still, you're not going to be overflowing with clients in the same way. It is literally getting people out of aches and pains that creates, in my experience, the most financial stability in this profession. And once you can do that, you can relax, you can enjoy yourself more, and then you can still do everything else you wanted to do as a trainer, working with the pro and Olympic athletes, preparing people for fitness competitions, helping the everyday folks get their lives back and be able to keep up with their kids. You can still do all those things even better when you start with this kind of a foundation. It's just a win-win for everybody.
Known each other for a long time. So I'm going to out you a little bit here in that, when you started as a trainer, you were living in your parents' basement, right? And then
Yeah.
as
Well,
and
I
then
guess it's flown out into the public now, isn't it? I guess everybody knows I was living in my parents' basement. Yes.
yeah, and our parents, our friends were concerned about us, right? Because we were like, "Hey, you guys are making, 17 bucks an hour. You're only getting paid while you're with someone. This is not stable." But you went from living in your parents' basement, and then as you made this transition into pain free, it afforded you the ability to buy your house, support your family, all those other things, right? And so that's the kind of financial transition you made. and you were making very similar to me, 17 bucks an hour when you first started. And then I know at,
Actually, Jeff, I'm gonna out you. I was making 16 an hour, and when you got hired, I hyped you up so much that they started you out at more than they started me out at.
yeah, I appreciate that about you. As you got to the specialization in pain free, as the problems you started to solve were more difficult, I mean, you were billing over $200 an hour for your services, right? And so that's the kind of transition that you made by specializing in this area. And I think that that's good for a lot of people that may be watching or listening to know that.
Yeah, it's a quick way to build credibility, professional credibility. If you're helping friends of the family get out of aches and pains and they've gone and seen doctors and specialists and therapists, and then they see you and get results, all of a sudden your family can acknowledge that you've got a real job, a real career, and you're doing really important work in the world. And then when they see that you're able to financially take care of yourself because of the money that's coming in, because you're able to provide value in the world and get paid for that value, that you're able to, buy a house, buy a car, everything else, because you've got such financial stability from focusing on this niche and specialization. People can really see the success and have faith that you've really been able to achieve a legitimate career here, that you are doing something meaningful. Because prior to that, everyone would ask me, when are you going to get a real job? Oh, you're working with a personal trainer. When are you going to get a real job? I would get that all the time. I mean, that's just feeding the imposter syndrome for all of us. But the quickest way out of that was just provide value to the world with aches and pains. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, yes, you are doing a real job. Okay, this is really important work in the world.
That's a great lead into the next piece is this. Like most people that become a health and fitness professional, a personal trainer, they don't choose it for money. Like they're not like, I'm here to get rich, or else they would get into finance or stocks or something like that. Right. So
Yeah.
they actually choose this career because they genuinely do want to help people. So can you talk about it from that standpoint, like the idea of helping people and the fulfillment of your passion, like why specializing in pain free is good for that side of things as well too?
Yeah, I mean, I wish everyone out there would be able to experience success with all types of clients, with all types of goals, so that they could eventually see for themselves that getting people out of aches and pains is by far the most fulfilling. Look, I have helped people win gold medals in the Olympics. I've helped them make it to the NHL, make it to all kinds of professional sports leagues. I've helped people get up on stage in fitness competitions and everything else. And those things have a fleeting level of excitement to them. But there's something that hits deeper when you get people out of aches and pains, something that brings them to tears when you help them get their life back and be able to connect better with their loved ones and everything else. You realize it gets more to the core of the human experience. Just being able to show up and live our best lives and be our best selves. This is the most underrated goal. And we need to be pain free, because pain can be an all consuming distraction from our higher purpose and mission for life. Now, you can learn this lesson through the stories and examples of somebody else like myself, or you can live it and learn it that way. But ultimately, we come to realize that having an impact that's fulfilling really comes down to helping somebody get their life back rather than setting a new PR on bench press or deadlift.
Yeah, on the fulfillment piece, when I reflect on my career of training that I've been doing for over 20 years, one of the stories I tell the most is not about like a client that hit a PR or, they lost 100 pounds, or like you said, I've helped someone put on like 25 pounds of muscle mass and get on stage and things like that. Those aren't the stories I tell. I have one story that I tell a lot when people ask me, and it's about Anita. Anita was a woman that came into the gym. She was in her late 40s, early 50s. We got her signed up for training, and she overcame her aches and pains. She got active again. And, Anita was an amazing client. She renewed for years and years and years. And that whole time, she kept coming to me and thanking me for the, getting her started with the training and helping her overcome those things. And that whole time she lost like 7 pounds and, never really hit like crazy PRs and things like that. But it was the life that got better. She was happier. It was easier to deal with her husband. It was easier to deal with her kids. Her job got better. And I ended up seeing Anita. I left that gym and I ended up seeing Anita 10 years later. I was working out at a different gym, and this woman comes running up to me and hugs me on the gym floor. And I hadn't seen her in 10 years, and she's just glowing. And still 10 years later, she's thanking me for getting her started and helping her break through those aches and pains. And she was now doing other stuff with her fitness and things like that. But it all just started with, just helping her get pain free and getting back to the things she loved in life. And so that's the story I tell most often because that's what it really means to me is that type of fulfillment. That's what the career is about, not all that other stuff. Right.
I actually went to a wake for one of my clients, a visitation. He passed away recently. Okay. So this client, his name was Frank, and he fell down a well. Anyways, as a result, he had a lot of imbalances and issues. I worked with him for years, and we started out with just body weight basics, and he was afraid of getting injured. Okay, like a doctor had referred him to me and just let him know Brendan is really good with aches and pains. So he was my client for many years, and eventually we progressed to kickboxing. His family reached out to me when he passed away and said, you mattered so much to him, and he absolutely loved his time with you. So we had to reach out to you to let you know he just passed away this week, and here's the visitation and funeral and everything else. And so I go up and I introduce myself to the receiving line. I'm like, hi, I'm Brendan. I worked with Frank as his teacher and everything else. And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you were his trainer? He loved you. He talked about you all the time, man." It was very fulfilling. I looked at my wife after and I'm like, "I was just his personal trainer, but I can't believe like how much everyone lit up when they found out who I was because of how much he had talked about me and everything else." And I felt privileged to work with him, to be able to be that person that they rant and rave about, and you show up at their wake and everyone thinks you walk in like a celebrity, just to me, that was a really fulfilling moment I had recently with a client.
That's amazing. Being a pain-free specialist is the best. Like that's the type of impact that you can have.
You know what? You've spent most of your career, you've been leading teams, building fitness businesses. How do you think the pain free stuff is a business advantage?
From a business perspective, there's a few different things. Like you wouldn't put a hot dog stand next to another hot dog stand, right? Like that's not how you're going to position yourself because everybody loses in that situation. So I remember starting as a new personal trainer, and most of the trainers at our gym were focusing on bodybuilding or fat loss or powerlifting or something of that nature. And because I had a kin degree and because I had spent a lot of time like mentoring or shadowing under the therapists on the university football team, I had a little bit of a background on like how could I help people with these injuries or aches and pains. And so I thought, well, let's just diversify into that. And it actually really helped me build my client roster a lot faster because while 5 or 6 or 7 trainers were fighting over that fat loss client, the guy that needed the hip replacement got sent to me right away. And it just made it
Yeah.
easier to build my roster because I was niching. I was different than what everybody else was doing. And so that's an important factor is to, set yourself apart, whatever location you're at or whatever city or whatever your environment is that you're marketing yourself in, is just make sure that you're setting yourself apart some way because it makes it easier for you to build your roster. It makes it easier for people to identify that like, hey, you're the person to work with, right? So that's a huge factor. And then what we talked about earlier, right? We talked about the difference in income that we made from when we started to now. And it's not just confidence and it's not just, the growth in our careers, but it's the problem you're solving is harder, right? So Jim Rohn said, like, long time ago, this is an old quote, but he said that you get paid in life for the difficulty of the problems that you solve. And so to your point, right? Like, if you're competing with Ozempic and or, whatever, Weight Watchers, that's not a difficult problem necessarily to solve as fat loss. And if you're helping somebody that's, kind of gone everywhere and tried everything for that shoulder pain or that aching back, but you're able to actually help them, then you're going to be able to charge a higher price. And people are going to show up expecting it, right? Like, if I just said to you, like, how much do you think you're going to pay to work with a trainer that to help lose 20 pounds? You might quote me, $60 an hour or so. And I said, well, how much do you think you might work with a health professional that's going to help you get rid of your back pain? And I don't know what the client would say in that instance, but I'm willing to bet that they're going to assume the cost is about 30% higher for that type of person. Right. And that's just something to consider.
It gives you a business advantage. I mean, it sets you apart. Totally. At one point, I was the head of a team of 48 personal trainers. And when it came to divvying out the clients, pretty much every trainer was very competent and capable at fat loss. They were all competent and capable at muscle gain. They knew how to set up muscle gain, strength gain. They all pretty much knew how to train athletes. The differentiating factor in ability and confidence delegating clients came down to how good are each of them at getting people out of aches and pains? How good are each of them at assessments? Because the key thing is a program is really only as good as the assessments that were used to determine the best program. And many trainers, tend to not value the power of assessments to make better programming decisions for clients, to help figure out what are the truest priorities, what should we be focusing on. It's very easy for people to just get lazy and give a lot of your clients the same program but just change the name at the top of the program. We know that's easy and you can fake expertise that way, but then you could also put in the effort to get the best results possible and experience the adventure and the rewards of doing that. And I think that that is an adventure that we should all be going on that is so worth it. Just go the extra mile to do the best job you absolutely can to see how good you can be and what a positive impact you can have.
Yeah, and the other thing to mention too is, in order to be successful, you do at any business, you want to follow sort of the trends of the industry and move in the same direction that the industry is going. And so, when we started over 20 years ago as personal trainers, it was a newer career. Personal training is what, 45 years old or something like that. It's not
Yeah.
a really long, standing career like a doctor or lawyers have been around a lot longer. And so it's evolved a lot over its young career, right? And so when we first started, it was about biceps and abs and things like that, right? Like that was the main thing people came to trainers for. But that's not the case anymore, right? If you look at the trend of today and what the next decade is going to bring us, it's really about this pain free living and this quality of life. I heard something the other day. I love it. I'm going to keep echoing it because I thought it was really, really great. It's that the old metrics in fitness was like, what was your body fat percentage or what was your PR? How much could you lift? And the new metric in fitness for the next decade is quality of life. Are you living a quality life? Are you doing the things you love with the people you love? For the next decade or more, that's going to be the most important metric that a personal trainer can deliver for a client. And so if you're a savvy business person, you would want to align your skill set with that trend, right? You would want to have the skills, the talents, the abilities to align yourself with that trend because it's just a supply and demand thing, right? Like if that's what clients want, if that's what clients care about, then that's the skill set that you have to have in order to supply and fill that demand. And that's how you make yourself in high demand and have the ability to earn a great income in this industry, right?
Absolutely.
So we talked about the industry changing and evolving because it's very young. And some personal trainers are like, hey, it's not my job to deal with aches and pains, right? Like that's a doctor's job or whatever. Can you speak to that mentality a little bit?
Yeah, your clients define what your job is. Okay.
That's a great point.
It's very easy to come up with an excuse to rationalize laziness. When we say that it's not my job, really, that's just laziness masquerading as something more elevated. Okay. Because these clients are coming to us for solutions they haven't been able to find yet, and in my experience was, first of all, everyone's got aches and pains. So if you refer them all out, who are you going to train? And then my experience was referring people out did not lead to them getting pain free. It led to them getting put on drugs. And those drugs had other symptoms. I had one client get put on a drug for an ache or pain, and then they ended up getting back pain. And back pain was a side effect of this drug. And I'm like, we're solving one problem and causing another. It would work if we were living in an enlightened society. If you have medical conditions, true medical conditions, of course, refer people out. At this point, we are assuming that all of your clients have been given medical clearance. Okay, so at what point are we just playing hot potato and passing clients back and forth because nobody wants to roll up their sleeves and help the client figure it out? I would submit back to them if somebody says, well, I should just refer out for this, or personal trainers can't work with rotator cuff issues. We need to refer out for this and that. My question is, could you do a better job? Are you truly doing the best you can? And what are the best possible outcomes if you truly try your best? Do you even know what the best possible outcomes are?
I love what you said about your clients define your job. That's such powerful wisdom right there. Like your clients are going to tell you what they need from you, and that's your job is to help them as best you can. Absolutely. That's such a huge takeaway for people. And you've talked about in the past, you don't cut what you can untie. So basically working from simplest to most complex, right? Like, yeah, if somebody's in a car accident, of course, we're going to go send them for medical attention. Like that's a no brainer. But, if somebody's dealing with wear and tear on the body, like who doesn't have wear on tear in their body from their living their life, right? So if you have wear and tear in the body, overuse problems, just general aches and pains from living a human life, right? Then it's well within the power of a personal trainer to start with something like exercise, like you're saying. So, like, let's not start with pills if we don't have to, or using machines like TENS machines or ultrasounds or having surgeries or stuff. Exercise is so simple. Let's just start there. I want to ask you about, you've had a lot of success in this industry over the last 20 years. So you went from, the personal trainer in your parents' basement to, being the head trainer at a medical clinic, working with Olympic gold medalists, helping pro athletes. You've had a massive amount of success, and now you're an educator that you educate around the world. So can you share a philosophy for people that are maybe just getting their career off the ground to get to that next level of success? Like, what kind of advice do you have for them? How should they think about learning and things like that?
I would say this. I'm grateful to have the experience as I've had. I'm grateful, but there's nothing special about me apart from anyone who's listening to or watching this podcast right now. I'm just showing you results that are possible for you if you do the things that I have done. Very early on in my career, I decided my wisdom was the best investment for my entire life. Why? Because with greater wisdom, we make better choices and decisions. There is no power in remaining ignorant. Okay? The best you simply is not possible until you invest in your wisdom. So for me, that was everything. It's like, I want to get wise as soon as I can and then just be able to ride the winning momentum of that for the rest of my life. Get wise fast. Don't wait to learn all of these things until later on in life. You simply cannot experience how good you can be until you truly make wisdom your top priority. Everything in life is better when you have more wisdom. Everything.
Yeah, and if you look at it from a business perspective, like Warren Buffett would tell you, invest early and invest often, right? Because it's the compounding interest on those investments over the many years that gets you huge returns where you become wealthy, right? And that's always been his strategy. Well, the same thing happens with wisdom, right? Is that you know, if you wait to take more courses and you say, "Oh, I'll do it in a few years or whatever," then you have less time to earn a return on that investment. But if you do it right away and you start learning aggressively in the beginning of your career, you have more working time, more time in your career to actually earn a return on that higher salary, able to get clients easier, able to solve problems better. You're earning a return for more years. And so at the end of your career, you end up in a better position.
And here's the key thing: when you invest in your wisdom and education, it gives you a greater sense of security. Okay, because you're wiser, you know what's going on, you can assess people better, you can figure out the problems at work better. Nothing will give you job security to the same degree as who you become. Becoming a better version of you is the best path to job security.
Fantastic show today. We covered why being a pain free specialist is an absolutely fantastic career choice for personal trainers. It helps you grow your business, fill your roster, earn more, not just per hour, but over the long run of your career. But it also allows you to have a great impact in the lives of people. And your path to becoming a pain free specialist is going to be through education. So, Brendan, today we cover a lot of different things. What are a couple of actionable takeaways that people can take out of this show today?
I would say this: believe in your highest potential. Like that, there is so much more you can do in your life and career than you think you can do. Step number one: decide you want to go on the adventure of realizing how good you can be. Then I'd say number two is determine the next actionable step for that to move you forward in the direction of becoming your best self. Connect with a good community. Figure out who are some good influences, some people that can bring out the best in you, and maybe try to get in their space more, connect with them more. Or maybe it's develop a very specific type of wisdom that can empower you in a dimension of your life. Perhaps professionally, what skills could you benefit from being even better at? Right? Just figure out what's the next step for you.
Amazing. Fantastic. To get you started on your pain free journey, we've got a free gift for you. So click on the link and start helping more people today. Thank you for taking the time to tune in today. From myself, from Brendan, from the entire exercise therapy team, we're here to help you win in your career.